Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach and today I am driving a 2002 Toyota Echo. Up front is a 1.5 liter inline 4 and down below is a 5-speed manual transmission. Now I am super excited to be driving this Echo for one main reason. I've never driven one before. The Toyota Echo only lasted a couple years here in the States, from 2000 to 2005, and was soon replaced by the ever so popular Yaris. And so it's fun to take a step back and look at where some of our modern cars came from, their lineage and heritage. So today's examinee is the Toyota Echo. But if you would like your vehicle examined by me, you can head on over to my website, zackprato.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form, and you would get a video of your car, just like the one you're watching now of this Echo. But let's get back to that 1.5 liter inline 4. Well, that's sort of the crown jewel of the Echo. It makes 108 horsepower, or at least it did in 2002. That's not why it's a great engine. It's not fast at all, so that's not the reason why it's great. The reason it's great is because of reliability. It's very easy to work on, it's very simple, it's small, and easy to get parts for. If you can't find a head gasket for a Toyota Echo, look up the Scion XB. The 1.5 liter was very, very popular and very easy to work on. This car is 175,000 miles, and it's still chipping along like nothing happened. That is what I like to see. Like I said, paired to it, 5-speed manual transmission. Now, of course, you could have found these with automatics as well, but this is the manual, and I actually really like the manual. It has a very confident click into gear like I would expect out of a Toyota. The clutch is incredibly light, incredibly forgiving, and so if you want to learn stick shift, the Echo is one of your best bets. Last but not least about the drivetrain, of course, the Echo is front-wheel drive. So how does it feel to drive the Toyota Echo? Well, everything is light and friendly. It almost feels like I'm driving this car on beginner mode. There's nothing really harsh about it besides the ride, which I would expect out of an economy car from 2002. Any harsh edges that were left over from the Tercel of the 80s have been smoothed over for the Echo. Visibility is pretty good, although it does have pretty awful tints on these windows, which the current owner did not do. Steering is light, the shifter throw feels great, and overall, it's a nice driving experience. It's a nice, easy beginner's driving experience. I've always said that manual Toyotas from this era, mostly the 1980s and up, drive like how you would think a manual car would drive if you closed your eyes and used a water bottle as your shifter, or whatever imaginative way you want to think. That's how this car drives, and I've always adored that about the Toyota Motor Company. So that's by the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, in typical Echo fashion, I get nothing. The steering wheel, although it does have a cover on it, is big and bubbly. It does have a giant airbag in the center, and no forward-facing buttons. I don't get cruise control. I don't get pretty much anything. Off to the left, I do have a vent, which is really cool. You kind of pull it down to close it, pull it up to open it. Down below that, I have my gauge dimmer switches and a little coin holder. And down by my knees, I actually get a giant storage bin, or more of a storage shelf. One of the many storage options here in the Toyota Echo. Moving out of the door, I just have manual mirrors and manual windows. And moving into the center, this is where you'll find your gauge cluster. So I do not have a tachometer. I have a fuel gauge, speedometer, and my warning lights. That's it. That's all I need to know. Then we do have a little cubby and 2 more climate control vents. And then the climate controls themselves. Incredibly simple. Temperature off to the left, fan speed in the center, where to send it off to the right. Then we do have an aftermarket radio because most radios from the 2000s cannot hold up to modern technology. Then we do have a little pull-out ashtray and 12-volt outlet. And then we have our cup holders. So we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the Toyota Echo from 2002. And unfortunately, but predictably, it fails the big friggin' bottle test. Then we come to the shifter. It's tall, it's cheap, and it's beat up, but it still works and still feels better than some cars feel on their very first drive. The shifter feels great, although it might not look the part, it plays the part, and that's all that matters. Then I do have a handbrake and more coin storage. And off to the right of everything, I do have a dual opening glove box. You can open the top and the bottom. Again, more cubby space here in the Echo. But moving on to the seats, these are seat covers from, I can only assume, also the early 2000s. Looks like someone murdered Racer X and used his jacket for the seats. But I digress. They're comfortable enough. They're doing the job. I'm not falling through the floorboards. That's all I can ask for from the Toyota Echo. It's basic transportation. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. Every great artist must suffer for their craft. Van Gogh lost an ear. I am squeezing myself into a back seat. Are they relatable and comparable actions? I'll let you be the judge. All right, so I'm in the back of the Toyota Echo. It's not bad at all. Actually, for being a coupe, if I sit up normally, the rain is hitting me, but obviously that wouldn't be a regular issue. I'm good. I'm comfy, actually. The seats are a little hard, a little basic, but definitely what I would expect out of a vehicle of this caliber. But I fit. I fit pretty good, actually. Really good, actually. I am very surprised. I do have cup holders around here, too. They don't fit the big friggin' bottle. But that's okay. I'm actually just happy being back here. This isn't bad in the slightest, and I really thought it was going to be. Breaking down barriers, Toyota Echo. That's what it's all about. Let's hop out. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. Hold the phone, ladies and gents. Even more storage out of the bottom of the seat, the passenger seat. That's pretty neat. So around the back of the Toyota Echo, key in here. Flip it up. And a previous owner liked music, I guess, and put a gigantic sub box in the trunk. There is a spare tire underneath. If you didn't have this dumb sub box back here, you'd actually have tons of space. I have to compliment Toyota. After the backseat review, finding all of the compartments in there and the trunk, they did a really, really good job with the interior packaging of the Echo. It's bigger on the inside, whatever terrible British TV show that's from. Anyway, very, very impressed with the trunk of the Toyota Echo. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and this thing is ugly. It is not a looker. To be fair, time has not been nice to this car. It does have some dents and dings, 175,000 miles, you gotta expect that. And for some god-awful reason, a previous owner tinted the headlights. If you tint your headlights, there's a special place somewhere hot for you. But anyway, I do think the coupe kind of looks funny. They did sell these in coupes and sedans. As well as up in Canada, you could even get a hatchback, which actually sold really well, while the rest of the Echo didn't. So, speaking of that, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think finally driving an Echo? Believe it or not, this was actually one of the vehicles on my bucket list. I used to see these all the time growing up, and now with every passing day, I see fewer and fewer of them on the road. They're starting to age out, and the fact that they were only made for 5 years doesn't help their case. What do I think driving this little Echo? First of all, the driving experience is good. Like I said, it feels like I'm in practice mode or something like that. It's a very forgiving automobile. So if you want to get into driving stick shift, or you want something that's stick shift that isn't gonna cramp your left leg, heaven forbid 2 cars stop ahead of you at the stoplight, the Echo's a great choice. That drivetrain is fantastic. But more than anything, I love what this vehicle stood for, what this car was. You see, back in the late 90s and early 2000s, Toyota wanted to diversify and start selling vehicles to a younger audience. They planned to do this through what they called the Genesis Project, which sounds like a secret nuclear underground base, but it was actually just their way of trying to market to the youngsters. Not really that serious, but Project Genesis consisted of 3 vehicles: the Toyota Echo, the MR2 Spyder, or MRS, depending where you are in the world, and the Toyota Celica. All of these vehicles were meant to be affordable and marketed to those who didn't have all the coin to throw around, but wanted to have a little fun. And all 3 of those cars failed. Now, the Celica had been around since the 70s, but it reached its final generation here in the early 2000s. After this, they never made another one. The MRS also failed. People weren't super happy with it. It definitely couldn't compete with the Honda S2000 at the time, and it did compete pretty well with the Miata, but it was also kind of overly complicated having the engine in the middle. And then there was this, the Toyota Echo. Nothing wrong on the outside. Sure, it might not be a looker, but again, No one bought them. They didn't sell well, like at all. The first year they sold 50,000 of them, and that was a great start, but numbers dwindled after that. And so Project Genesis was ended. It was considered a flop. But like a phoenix from the ashes, Toyota learned a lot by the failure of this car. And what did they end up doing? They made a little brand called Scion. So if you ever had a Scion XB, an XA, an XD, a TC, or an FRS, you have this little car to thank. The lessons learned from the Echo were applied to Scion. And Scion was one of the coolest brands of the 2000s. But you don't get that without this. This was a special little car. It bridged the gap that the Tercel left and paved the way for the later Yaris. It was an olive branch extended by a bloody hand. A hand that had been through so much and got no respect for any of it. But without it, things would have been vastly different. I love this little car because it is so basic and simple and friendly. The Echo is a tub of cookie dough with the baking ingredients right on the lid. This car is jumping into the deep end with 2 floaties on either arm. This is the automotive equivalent of the squatty potty. Just makes life a little easier. The Echo deserves our respect. You don't have to be best friends with it, but you gotta respect what it did for the Toyota brand. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Sean for letting me take out his Toyota Echo. I was so excited to drive this car. Like I said, this was a bucket list car. Sean's been absolutely awesome. I've reviewed a couple of his vehicles before. He's been a huge asset to the channel, and I can't thank him enough. But as the rain starts coming down, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.